Hello, my name is Alison Manners, Delivery Lead at Flexibility Works. Welcome to this short video, which is designed for working parents who are either in work looking for a new role or currently out of work and looking to get back into the workplace but need some flexibility to support them. I'm going to cover a number of areas in this video, which are what the different forms of flexible working are and what the picture looks like in Scotland currently. We'll be looking at your legal rights and also where you can find flexible jobs. How and when you can have the conversation about flexible working with your employer or future employer. So we're going to start with the different types of flexible working and what the picture looks like in Scotland in 2025. You can see that the flexibility that is being used in Scotland at the moment is pretty positive, but we know there is still work that can be done to improve this. There are 67% of workers who have some form of flexibility and another 18% who don't work flexibly but would like to. So altogether, there are 85% of workers who have or currently want flexibility. Looking at the different types of flexibility, there are different forms of flex, and it's not just about people who are working in office roles. It also applies to people working in frontline roles. It comes in many different forms. So you can see from here that there are about 46% who are working some sort of home working and hybrid working, but also flexibility can include things like just having small changes to start and finish times, or having reliable and predictable shift patterns. It can include formal flex, where changes are made to your contract of employment, or informal ad hoc changes, which you can agree informally with your manager, but that don't change your contract. We know that flex is good for workers, with 83% of workers saying that flex gives them a good work-life balance, compared to 54% of workers without flex. It makes a massive difference to parents who are working, with 1 in 7 saying flexible working means that they can work when this was previously not possible. You'll see the impact is higher for parents living in poverty and some other groups. But we also know that flex is good for business, with 72% of employers thinking flex is good for business, with only 7% saying it's negative. And there are a number of benefits to organisations for having flexible working. And the top 5 are as follows. And you'll see that flex makes a significant difference to many things like the well-being of staff, retaining good staff, improving people's mental health and well-being, reducing sickness and absence rates, and maintaining overall business productivity. So what are your legal rights in relation to flexible working? There is legislation in place to support you making a flexible working request. And you can do that on day 1 of your employment. The employer has to deal with your flexible working request within a 2-month timeframe. And they must consult with you unless they are agreeing to your request in full. And it's important that they do this. They cannot just turn your request down without having a conversation with you first. You can make 2 flexible working requests in a 12-month period. And the employer can only refuse your request using 1 of 8 statutory reasons. And those include things like the burden of additional costs, an inability to reorganise work amongst existing staff or recruit additional staff, a detrimental impact on quality, performance, or meeting customer demand, or if there's insufficient work available for the periods that you want to work, or if there are planned structural changes to the employer's business. You also have protection against detriment, which means poor treatment, or dismissal from your job for simply exercising your right to make a flexible working request. So where can you look for flexible jobs if you're looking for a new role? Firstly, you can have a look at flexible working websites and flexible working recruitment portals rather than using conventional job pages or job sites. And you can see a selection of them on the screen now. It's also worth looking at public sector roles where there are robust flexible working policies in place, and also looking at the charity or third sector, as this sector generally offers a good amount of flexible working. Secondly, if the employer does not specifically mention flexible working in their job adverts, and we know that only a third do, even when they are offering flexibility, it's important to do your own research and look for clues. Looking at the Glassdoor website shows reviews from existing or previous employees, which can give a helpful insight into the ways of working for that particular company. Companies that have awards or family-friendly awards, or even show that they pay the living wage, whilst this is not a guarantee that they offer flex, it's a really good indicator of their culture and their focus on doing more than the legal minimum as an employer. How and when can you have the conversation about flexibility with your current employer or a new employer? So if you're already working for an employer and you want to make a formal flexible working request, so this is a request that will change your contract of employment, you need to put that request in writing, either in a letter or an email, and make sure you make it clear that that is a statutory request for flexible working. Date that request, outline the changes you're requesting, and when you would like that change to start. If you have made any previous statutory flexible working requests, note those in your letter and the date of any previous requests. You can find further details about this on the ACAS website. What I would say is do your thinking beforehand, and it is good practice to have an informal discussion with your employer or manager first, where you have a good relationship with them, so that when you put in your formal request, it does not come as a surprise. And remember that as well as making a formal request, you can also have informal flexible working sitting alongside that. And it's also important to remember that anyone can apply for flexible working, not just parents needing support for childcare. So what about if you're preparing for a conversation about flexibility when you're applying for a new job? It's really important that you do your homework on that employer. Dig around and have a look at their social media web pages or sites. Have a look and see if there are any staff profiles. Generally see what they're saying about ways of working. If they don't mention anything, that may be a red flag, and it might be an indication that they are not a flex-friendly employer. Secondly, do your homework on the job description and what might be realistic in terms of your request. And thirdly, be specific. Don't just ask, do you offer flexible working? Try and be solutions focused rather than leaving the employer something to puzzle out themselves. Think about your flexibility that you can perhaps offer the company as well as the other way around, if this is possible. And when should you have the conversation about flexibility if you're applying for a new job? Should this be at the interview or wait until you've been offered the job? There are some advantages of raising it at the interview because it's a two-way process and you know what's realistically on offer at the end of that process. It also shows you have really thought about how you're going to make the job work and understand the role. And you're also starting to build a relationship with your future employer. On the other side, if you're very nervous, it might be more difficult for you to get that across at the interview. and some employers might not welcome it. But remember, if you've done your homework, you should have an idea, and good employers will ask you about ways of working themselves. What about when waiting till you've been offered the job? On the plus side, you are the preferred candidate and they want you for the job. It's part of the negotiation process, like negotiating a salary. You may feel more confident at this stage given you have been offered the job. On the flip side, some employers may prefer this being raised at the interview so that they understand your needs as well as their needs. You have already committed time and effort at this stage, only for them to turn around and say no. Think about when you will feel more comfortable having this conversation. But remember, if you need flexibility, you must discuss this before you accept the role, as without it, that role may be unsustainable for you in the long term. If you want to find out more information about flexible working, please look at our website, www.flexibilityworks.org, or if you need further advice on making a formal flexible working request, please visit www.acas.org.uk. Thank you for listening.